Hey everybody. So the internet can be a confusing, indecipherable place. A vast confluence of billions of ideas and opinions formed by millions of people, every second of every minute of every day. As such, the World Wide Web is by no means stagnant. Everything changes, from what's cool and what isn't, to what games to play, to what kind of music is good, even to what's funny and what isn't. A snapshot of the internet from only a year ago paints a largely different picture when compared with a snapshot today, and the further back you go, the more stark this contrast becomes. All in all, this plays out much like real life, albeit at a much faster pace. However, every so often we find a link to the past, a new internet trend that, when put under the microscope, bears shocking resemblance to the fads of the ancient web. Case in point, a relatively new phenomenon online, one which I've touched on in the past, is 21st century humor, a bizarre and often nonsensical clash of 1,000 sources of media. While this is certainly interesting on its own, keen observers were soon to point out that 21st century humor strongly mirrored another, much older breed of internet comedy. And today, that is what we're going to be looking at. The history of one of the oldest and longest running internet trends. The history of YTP. We can't really go on without first answering the question, what is a YTP? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. YTP stands for YouTube Poop, and it's a style of video making that originated around 2004. Older YTPs generally consist of a source video that's been cut up, rearranged, slowed down, sped up, and otherwise altered to the point that it's almost unrecognizable. Source videos were traditionally taken from CDI games or video game cartoons like the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, but as time went on, the pool of acceptable sources expanded to encompass pretty much everything. You've almost certainly seen a YTP before, if not one of the older ones, then one of the newer variants, which are generally more polished and contain a variety of sources. But now that we know this, we can get into the background. Now, you might imagine that an internet trend with a history this rich and long-lasting had to have faded in, slowly, over time. Its conception would have had to have been the product of months of build-up, or a natural evolution of a previous idea. The idea of a YTP couldn't have simply come into being, right? Well, as it turns out, it did. The story of the YTP begins with a single post, and this post was created by a single man. SuperYoshi, real name Matt Mulligan, was born on August of 1989 and had a passion for old-school gaming. SuperYoshi created an account on the now-defunct SheezyArt site, which, by the way, is one of the ugliest sites I've ever seen, on November 2nd of 2004, and began periodically uploading videos based around the aforementioned games. In December of 2004, Yoshi acquired a copy of Windows Movie Maker and began experimenting with clips from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. What he uploaded next would change the scene of internet humor forever. On December 22nd, Yoshi posted a video entitled The Adventures of Super Mario 3 Remixed to SheezyArt. The video, which clocked in at around 3 minutes and 20 seconds long, consisted predominantly of clips from the Super Show episode Recycled Koopa, with some rudimentary edits, slowdowns, and rearrangements, as one would expect from a software test. The video was almost entirely random, as opposed to the semi-linear YTP structure that would come in the following years, and most notably, it repeatedly featured a clip in which Luigi spoke the phrase, "I'd say he's hot on our tail."
Wow! I'd say he's hot on our tail!
Which would become the clip's most recognized name. Reactions to the video were mixed, with some users finding it confusing and others finding comedy, if only for the video's chaotic nature. SuperYoshi would create a YouTube account on March 28th of 2006, and 3 days later he would upload Sonic and Robotnik's Sodomy Hour. The video consisted of clips from the Sonic the Hedgehog TV series and is widely considered to be the first YTP uploaded to YouTube, which would over time become the primary source for the videos and indeed the source of their name. While the idea of a YTP was still in its infancy and was considered by many to be meaningless, the ball had begun rolling. Other very early YTPers like Walrus Guy, Deeper Cut, and CS188 began to make videos in the same vein as SuperYoshi. At the time, the standard YTP consisted overwhelmingly of video from 90s video game shows or CDI games, occasionally interspersed with whatever meme was popular at the time. The videos of this era were short, fairly nonsensical, and often didn't follow a storyline or predetermined path. Certain phrases and clips were used more often than others and became notorious, such as the infamous opening scene of Hotel Mario,
"Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi?"
King Harkinian's dialogue from The Faces of Evil,
"My boy, this peace is what all true warriors strive for,"
and the legendary clip from Sonic the Hedgehog in which Robotnik appears to say a certain word.
Snooping as usual, I see.
Throughout the second half of the 2000s, as YTPs became more mainstream and editing techniques advanced, a number of characteristic maneuvers took root in the community. Known as poopisms, these included the Stutter Loop, a rapid repetition of a small segment, sentence mixing, rearranging dialogue to create new sentences, and the ever-present Earrape, simply boosting audio levels and distortion to an insane degree. As with many internet trends, YTPs slowly grew from a niche joke to a full-blown phenomenon. As this happened, both editing techniques and ambitions surged to new heights, with YTPers struggling to outdo each other with greater and greater feats of poopery. YTPs became longer, more detailed, and in some cases, more story-driven, if such a thing can be said. Around 2008, the concept of a YTP-MV was developed, in which a traditional YTP source is arranged to become a song. As the next decade rolled around, the sources used for said YTPs began to diversify, with nearly anything becoming fair play for editing. Around the same time, a new wave of YTPers entered the scene, bringing with them a more organized, linear style of YTP making. While the core tenets and chaotic nature of the YTP remained, they were now contained in more detailed, visually appealing packages that clearly had solid levels of work put into them. YTPers like Jimmy Davis, Flying Kitty, and the legendary Emperor Lemon revolutionized the genre and helped it transition into the next age of the web. Throughout the early 2010s, YTPs became detailed enough that they could be turned into series, with fans eagerly awaiting the next installment. Some newer YTPs focused around parody of a specific film, TV series, or game, and even these were turned into series of their own. Moving into more recent years, YTPs slowly became less disjointed. YTPers began to collaborate with each other, creating long-form episodes that showcased each of their unique styles. Gone were the short, purely chaotic remixes of obscure media, and in their place were elaborate, semi-story-driven pieces that could almost be considered art. Almost. Although in recent years the YTP trend has died down, they continue to be made and the spirit still lingers on. Its influence can be seen in later pieces of internet media, many of which I mentioned in the 21CH video. Very few internet users can claim not to have seen or at least heard of a YTP in their time on the web. And who knows, somewhere down the line we may see a renaissance of the YTP genre, a return in another form, or a renewed interest in the idea. Either way, I don't think we've quite seen the last of the YouTube poop. Thanks for watching.